All right, let's get into day 28 of Job and chapters 32 to 34. And we are introduced to a new character in the book, Elihu, which is just a young guy who's sat and listened all along and really doesn't have much more to say than the other three friends. So, and Job doesn't respond to this. This is Elihu in Job 32 through 34. A couple wonderful things in this as well. Verse 2, introduction. Then Elihu, son of Barachel the Buzite of the clan of Ram, and if you have a Bible lineage, you can see the clan of Ram. He became angry. He was angry because Job refused to admit that he had sinned. That's the key part of this, is that Elihu's sitting there listening, both sides go back and forth, and he's like, okay, Job, are you not going to admit it? You're not going to admit you did wrong? Really? We all understand. We got the backdrop of the story. It's like Satan's doing this. Satan's causing this, and God allowed Satan to do it. But this is all between God and Satan about what's going on. And there's some good points that are made. It's like, hey, don't talk about God like this. So he goes on. He says, he was angry because Job refused to admit that he had sinned and that God was right in punishing him. He was also angry with Job's three friends, for they made God appear to be wrong by their inability to answer Job's arguments. What a crazy thing. So here's this guy. He's in there and he's like, you three are a bunch of idiots because you can't answer this guy. And this guy is still refusing and rebelling against God. He's certainly going to go to hell for this. So that's this setting that we have here. And it says, verse 12, I have listened, but not one of you has refuted Job or answered his arguments. I mean, this guy's really pretty bold to say this. Verse 12 of chapter 33, he says, but you are wrong, and I will show you why. For God is greater than any human being. Okay, so here's this guy looking at Job who's got all this integrity, and he's like, well, you're obviously wrong. And yeah, me, with all my wisdom and experience, am going to tell you why you're wrong. Okay, so in verse 23, he goes, but if an angel from heaven appears, a special messenger to intercede for a person and declare that he is upright. All right, so I have this set aside, verses 23 through 26, to kind of play the part of Christ here. And we get bits and pieces of Christ throughout the Old Testament. A lot, not just bits and pieces, but there's a little piece for you. And this intercession of someone from heaven, and it goes on, it says, if he declares you upright, he will be gracious and say, rescue him from the grave, for I have found a ransom for his life. That's what we all want to hear from Christ, that he has ransomed himself for us. Then his body will become as healthy as a child's, firm and youthful again. When he prays to God, he will be accepted, and God will receive him with joy and restore him to good standing. Okay, so when we are resurrected in the rapture, we all get new bodies. And this is kind of a foreshadowing of that sort of thing. So Elihu kind of talks about this, not really sure if he understands what he is saying, but this has everything to do with the rapture and what's going to happen to us. So I have a couple other verses here. Verse 29 of chapter 34. But if he chooses to remain quiet, this is God, he's talking about God. But if God chooses to remain quiet, who can criticize him? When he hides his face, no one can find him, whether an individual or a nation. Yeah, okay, so yeah, we can't tell God to do something. If he wants to do it, he's going to do it. So one of the smartest things Elihu has said, and then verse 36, Job, you deserve the maximum penalty for the wicked you have talked. I mean, how ridiculous this guy is, being judge and jury for Job and sentencing him at the same time. Very real last dig. I think Satan's got this guy on his side as well. He's got the three friends that just happened to show up and cause problems, and then we got Elihu, who really doesn't know much more than the other three guys. But also remember, they don't realize what has happened to Job. So a little grace for them as well as we leave this. That's day 28. See you tomorrow.